Dr. Henry Cloud, thank you so much for once again joining me in the studio. I'm so excited, even though we're joining via Zencaster. I'm just so excited to talk to you again. You're just amazing. You're one of That's great. You're just amazing. You're so filled with wisdom and
my brain feels better already.
I know, just seeing you makes me happy.
instantly change the whole thing. So
there you go. Our brain waves, we've got lots of what we call theta energy flowing through our brains, which is healing energy. So when you have good relational connections, and I get so excited talking to you because you just make things so clear. Absolutely brilliant. So Henry, can you just start by introducing yourself to my audience? Most of my people know you, but I would just love you to introduce yourself again.
Yeah, Dr. Henry Cloud. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I kind of play around in that whole world that psychologists deal with. I think of life as kind of like a pie, and there's three big pieces to it. There's the clinical arena, where that's all the stuff we feel, where we hurt, our anxieties and stress and depressions, addictions, energy levels, all of that stuff, the way we think. And then the second big piece of the pie is our relationships. So marriage and family, extended family, dating, work relationships, how we relate is a big, big, big part of life. And it's where a lot of everything comes from. So that's the second big pie. Yeah. And then the third big pie, big piece of the pie that's important is our performance lives. Every human has gifts and talents and abilities. And at the end of the day, we want those to turn into some sort of a result, like we've accomplished something and feel good about that. So sometimes it's a little bit of a path from getting to a desire or a plan or a dream, and making sure that doesn't just remain a fantasy, to actually get it into real life and accomplish things. That's a struggle too. So I kind of hang out in all three of those areas of the pie. And then I think, there's a spiritual connection to all of those. A lot of people take the spiritual life and make it another piece of the pie, but I don't believe that.
I agree with you.
Those are affected by our spiritual development. So that's kind of how I look at it.
I love that. That's such a logical. Sorry, go ahead.
And I work with a lot of different kinds of people. A lot of high performers. I work with a lot of CEOs, a lot of high performing, like athletes and others, and then just a lot of clinical experience with just regular old folks like us. So that's what I do.
And your wisdom is profound, and you've really pulled together the concept of boundaries in such an exceptionally brilliant way. And now, as we're going through this COVID situation, it's changed our world. And you and I had an earlier conversation. You did a live Instagram with me, and it was absolutely amazing. Had thousands of people watching, by the way. And we started talking about getting into some really important things. And I'd love to dive into boundaries and in terms of being in isolation, because a lot of the questions that we are getting are about how do I deal with the toxic parent, the toxic child, the toxic whatever, that maybe they were toxic before, now it's worse, or maybe it wasn't toxic before, but the situation has created this.
There are some people there's an old saying, it's like a lot of times it's relatives, they're sort of like a pair of socks. They're fine for a few days, and then they start to smell. It's sort of like these short visits, but 6 weeks or 7 weeks locked up with certain, just it works sometimes, other times it doesn't.
Oh my gosh, Henry. Okay, so I'm going to use that now. The next time someone's toxic, I'm going to say you're an old sock. You need a wash. Go.
Duck quickly.
I love that. That's such a great analogy. Okay, so you were talking, and I want to pick up on the discussion that we ended off in the live Instagram, where you were talking about you've got this fantastic radio show now that people can phone in and ask you questions, which is amazing. And one lady phoned you.
Actually, it's 24/7. You can view it on the web anytime, but there's a certain hour that you can call in. But if you go to Facebook, Dr. Henry Cloud, or on YouTube, Dr. Henry Cloud, you can find the show.
Oh, I love it. And for them to phone in, all the details on your website, for them to be able to find you on the radio show.
To phone in, we do that at 1 p.m. Pacific time.
1 p.m. Pacific time.
I'll move it a little bit, but right now that's the regular time.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's great information. We'll put that in the show notes as well for people. But now, you had an interesting call in the other day from a lady and her mother-in-law. Can you tell us that story? And we were starting to role play it, and then I didn't. Okay, go ahead. Pick up from there.
Well, you and I were talking about how you have boundaries, and especially now. I mean, in the old world, which I hope we get back to, you don't have to stay inside all the time, but
yeah,
you could. There are the natural boundaries of life that God created in the universe are time and space. Okay. There's a natural boundary in time. We have daytime, nighttime, work time, playtime, project time, personal time. So time allotments create boundaries. And the other one is physical space. So it used to be, I mean, even if you're, around certain people, there was always the play the time and space card, right? Where you say, oh, sorry, I'd love to talk, but I got a meeting at the office. I got to go.
So you could get out. Yeah.
You got a natural boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now if, you're locked up in the house sometimes, or, grandmother right next door, some of those natural boundaries aren't there anymore. And we have to create them intentionally. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the caller, she called and said, what do you do with a manipulative mother-in-law? And so what I was talking to her about that was that, it's one thing to have to set the boundary with a person and say, I got to have some time for myself now. I got to go work on this project. I can't hang out with you for a couple hours or whatever. But setting that interpersonal boundary is only as powerful as the internal freedom that you have to not get hooked in by the manipulation.
So good.
So she said, I said, well, role play it with me. And she says, okay, I told her to be the mother-in-law. And the mother-in-law comes in and says, she goes, hi, Mom, it's good to have you. And the mother-in-law walks in the house and goes, oh, yeah, I forgot what the place looked like because, I don't get invited here very much anymore.
Oh, gosh.
Lobs that, that guilt pie over the fence.
Oh.
And if you don't have, if you've got, I always talk about Velcro. If you got Velcro in your brain that's going to stick to, you're going to go down the tubes feeling guilt, bad, and all this. And you can't have the Velcro that sticks to. It's got to roll off. The skin are like water off a duck's back. And we talked about a formula. You got to, when they manipulate you, you've got to empathize and set the limit. So, that's kind of frustrating. Okay, well, let's go have some tea or whatever. You don't get hooked by it. Don't, when they serve that ball over the net, don't hit it back.
That's so good.
It's noise.
Don't play the game. Don't hit it back. Let it be water off a duck's back. That's so excellent, because how often do we have that immediate emotional response where we want to defend and we want to justify? You spoke about justifying being a dance. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, you don't, remember this. No is a complete sentence.
Love that.
If somebody's trying to manipulate you into something, you go, no, I don't want to do that. That's a complete sentence. You don't have to add on 14 reasons and justifications, because when you do that, that's not going to satisfy them.
It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well.
It's not going to end.
That's good. It's just not going to end.
The bigger problem, right? We wish it could end well, which you said, it's not going to end well. The only thing that's going to make it end well is for you to give in and say, okay, you can come live in my face and not have any breathing room for the rest of my days on earth. It's the limit that they're frustrated with. They don't want to run into it. And I'm a pig, all right? hate it when my plate is empty. I hate that. I don't care what I'm
What
eating.
did where that statement was going when you said that statement? That's hilarious. You don't like your plate empty.
I hate it. Every time it happens, I have no button inside of me that says enough, right?
Oh, that's so funny.
If I have a great steak, I want two. I want three. But limits are reality. All right. So I hit the end. I hit that limit. I finally run into a no. There's the plate could give me 46 reasons why it's out of food. That's not gonna make me stop. The only thing that's gonna stop is I've run into the limit.
That's very, very good.
When we say no to somebody's manipulation, and we enforce it, say, okay, I'd like to hang out with you, but I can't. I got to go do some work. It's going to take me a few hours. Entertain yourself, take a nap, whatever you want to do. I'll see you at 3:00 when I'm done. And you walk in, and then they go, but no, how could you? Oh, I'm sorry, that's frustrating, but I really got to go. And you're not going to talk them out of that. Is the point? I'm never going to be happy. I'm just not. But I got to deal with it.
So what you said, this is so good. So what you're saying is that there's no point getting into that discussion, but you have to then go away, go to your office, go do what it is that you have to do, or say no, whatever the situation is, have the tea with your mother. Okay, you got to end with that. But you've got to have the mental boundary to not think, oh, I should have kept the peace. I should have done this. I could have done that. Now we've got this whole long thing going. So you could have your space invade. Yeah, exactly. The brain is just. I mean, I'm seeing Henry. You've just finished a set of clinical trials. Last time I saw you, we were busy finishing them, and now I've been in the analysis process, and I've done all these neuroscientific clinical trials where we've been looking at people's mind-brain interaction, and when you get mind management, which is what you're describing in terms of boundaries, how your brain changes like immediately, and how your brain picks up your non-conscious level, what you're really feeling, and just how you can even influence your telomere length, which is on your DNA and everything. And as you're talking there, when you're explaining that, if you don't, like you did this with your head, if we go away from that, no, I'm not going to do it, you've set your boundary, but then you go into your space and you're now feeling guilty about that, you're putting your brain into the most incredible toxic stress. And then your body's going to go into that toxic stress. So not only do you, I mean, we all talk about the amygdala and stuff, but it's actually like you get a statewide, nationwide, countrywide lockdown. Your brain goes into not just one area of your brain, but it goes into in total lockdown. All the frequencies of the brain start firing and turning into, if you think of the waves of the beach, if you think of the sea, you've got your very far back, you've got your really big swells, but they look small from far, but when you get into them, they're deep. And then they get a bit smaller, and then eventually become big waves, and then you have little waves on the beach. Your brain works like that pattern when you are setting boundaries, when you are going into a room and not getting freaked out about what that mother-in-law said or something. But when you don't, and you go in there and you start feeling all the guilt, and you do this thing with your head, the waves turn into a waterfall. And that is so bad for your brain function. And that's when all the structures of the brain, you don't think clearly. So we see a drop in function of the prefrontal cortex. We see the amygdala, which is good emotional stuff too, but we see it getting confused. So there's confusion that reigns. So when you did this, that picture and those images from our clinical trials we've just finished just popped into my head because your description was very apt, very appropriate.
I love the beach analogy, because if you look at let's tweak the metaphor just a little bit, where, you're the sand, that's your boundary.
Yeah.
So the wave comes up, and you just empathize with it. They're going to keep coming back.
But the wave also goes back, doesn't it? It comes up, but it goes back.
But if you dug a canal in there and let them in to your mind, all those guilt messages, they're not going back. They're just going to go with you.
Exactly. They're going to follow you as you keep digging, and they just start following you.
That's right. And so here's one of the most powerful things I think we can ever learn about this. The most powerful force in the universe is love. All right? And you're talking about the energy fields and all this. So if I'm really loving grandma or mother-in-law, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever this is, and I love them so strongly, and I'm feeling all this love. And while I'm feeling that love, I'm saying no. Okay? I got to go in my office. I'm so sorry this is hard for you. And I'm feeling that love towards them while I'm saying no. That negative stuff is going to come, and my love is just going to push it back out into the ocean. It can't get in.
Exactly.
But when we take the hook and they say, well, don't you care about me? And you don't love me. And we start to feel like, well, I don't love them anymore if I'm saying no. The only way to love them is to say yes. Now we're really, really in trouble. And so you always love somebody strongly, even when you're saying no to them. And the love that you feel is going to immunize you against that negative energy, because when they come at you with all this hate, your love is going to be, no, I don't. What are you talking about? Hate? No, I love you. I can't be with you right now, but I sure do care about you. And I hope you have a good time in there, trimming your nails or whatever you're,
Or watching something on Netflix. Or go for a run. Go for a run. Put that energy in the workout.
Exactly. And I'll be loving you from another room, but I got some work to do.
That is so good. I love the fact that you said immunize. The love literally immunizes. If I may throw in just a little sciencey thing over here, we emanate energy because we are alive and living. And the easiest way to imagine that is, do you remember when we were at school and we played with magnets and you would put the iron filings on the paper and you'd put the magnet down and then you put two magnets together and it would make all the patterns with the iron filings. That's what we're doing as humans. And if you think of the beautiful patterns that two magnets will create, it's this order. But if you shake up the magnets a little bit, you shake up the iron filings, but then they go back into that order again. And that's what we found with the energy that, like Einstein did a lot of work on the photons that we emit and this energy, this field that is around. It's not anything weird. we generate these electromagnetic fields because we are alive, and we pick that up in the brain waves in terms of the different types of frequencies, alpha, beta, theta, gamma, all the different frequencies. And so when we operate in love, that field is perfect, and it generates this energy out into the environment, and that's how you can be with someone, and you just know that you like each other, and you just know that that love is there. And when someone is being toxic and they're trying to manipulate, even though they love you, when they come in with a manipulation, they're trying to shake up the iron filings. But by you operating in love, it just goes back to love again. So no matter how much they shake and shiver, you can either stay in the shaking state, or you can just pull back and allow the dust to settle, the iron filings to settle, or the energy to settle. And it's very hard. That perfect love does cast out fear, because it does cast out the toxicity. It becomes a barrier. You said immunize. It literally builds up a barrier, like a shield. You think of those old, I always use the example of the medieval knights wearing their armor. When you operate in love, you're actually putting up an armor.
The armor of love is, think of it this way. See, a lot of times when this whole boundaries thing, it gets confusing in people's head in terms of, where they feel like their power comes from.
Yes.
And a lot of times it might be in authority. If they're my boss, I feel powerless, or if they're this, and which that's not where it comes from. It comes from who you are as a person.
That's so good.
But if you think of in terms of the love and immunizing you against this, think of a mother, okay, and their infant. All right, the mother is feeling all of this love, and the infant is mad as hell.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't pick me up in time. I'm wet. I'm hungry. All of this rage.
Yeah.
Mother, because they don't get confused about the power dynamic. They take their love and they bring that infant in, and they just rock screaming, and they take that love, and that love, it's like the proverb says, a soft answer turns away wrath. They're not going to be overpowered by somebody's anger. Now, it's easy in that instance.
That's powerful.
But what happens is the love begins to melt the anger, and it solves everything. Now, we get other relationships where, because that person's not, 8 pounds and that tall, we have a transference, and all of a sudden we see them as this big monster. A frustrated person, and we're equals as human beings. So your love is always going to be more powerful than what they're feeling. But that doesn't mean that you got to pull out your hair and give it to them just because they want it.
That's not actually love, is it? That's not love. When you succumb to someone who's manipulating past a boundary that they should be manipulating, that's not love.
Look, anywhere there's a basic formula. It's like the laws of physics. Freedom equals love equals responsibility.
I love it.
So if you're in a relationship, those 3 things always have to be equal. If people, freedom and love, if people aren't free to say no to each other. If you want me to, what if you said, we got to go an extra 2 hours here, on this podcast, and I can't do that, and I say no to you. If I'm not free to say no, the only way you're going to like me is if I say yes. That's really not liking me at all.
No, that's manipulation.
It's manipulation. So freedom and love we have to be equal. To the degree we're free to love somebody and free to say no to what they want, then we have great love. And the only way that works is if each person is taking responsibility for themselves. So if I say, no, I can't do this, and you don't withdraw love from me, what that means is you're taking responsibility for your feelings of disappointment when I say no, and that's a bummer. You're owning that. I'm owning my choices, but we still love each other, and we're going to be fine.
That's very good. You've created a separation there. You've acknowledged that person, I can see you frustrated, I can see you irritated, I can see you don't like my answer, but that's your feelings. Those are I'm not going to take your gorilla. Do you know that saying? Don't give me your gorilla. That's a very South African saying. If you take that manipulation if you allow that channel to be built in the beach, you're taking someone's gorilla and you're putting it on your back, and now you carrying it instead of them carrying it. Now they're not carrying anything. Meanwhile, it's impossible for you to carry because it's their stuff. So it basically whacks you down. You fall over, whereas they actually can disseminate and manage their gorilla better than you can. So
love that. And I don't want to feed your gorilla. If you want a gorilla, you go feed it, right?
Keep your gorilla, yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't care. It just means I don't want a gorilla.
Exactly. We've got enough of our own gorillas. We don't want to give them to take someone else's on them as well. So that is so fascinating. I love that. Henry, do we have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah.
I'm respecting your boundaries.
Yeah, I've got about 8 or 9 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect. So do I have to tape something after this too. So that's perfect. So we'll both respect each other's boundaries. You see how the love is going here. So good. We just know how to do this. So good.
And responsibility for all the frustration. Oh, I wish I could say, but my gorilla. So go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I've got so many questions here, but I know that people are saying hang on, I'm going to ask you this. How can not having or enforcing boundaries lead to burnout, stress, and mental health issues? I wanted to ask that question because we've kind of intimated it. So let's take what we've been saying into that question and just handle that a little bit. So how does not enforcing boundaries affect your mental health?
Well, I think you said more than that. You said burnout, a bunch of stuff.
Burnout,
right?
yes. So the actual question, how can not having or enforcing boundaries lead to burnout, stress, and mental health issues?
Yeah, burnout, stress, and mental health issues. Okay, so one of the things you're talking about here, whenever you're talking about burnout, you're talking about 2 things. One is you're talking about energy that, what you've done is you've burned the wick down from the candle. So, if you don't have boundaries, there's just a simple quantitative amount of energy that's going to burn out.
Love it.
But generally speaking, that's not what we call burnout. That's because if we're just expending energy, that's being tired. And if you rest, then rest will replenish being tired. But what happens is when people get burned out, generally, what they've done, it's more than quantitative not saying no, because that'll get you fatigued. It's also that their soul has been slowly kind of like decaying because they're actually saying yes when they don't want to say yes. And they're not free. See, a sacrificial gift costs us, but it leads to joy because it's chosen. If we're not in boundaries and we're being manipulated into something, that's begrudgery and drudgery. And there's a slow, it's like when somebody's doing something and it's really not out of a purposeful desire, even though it's hard, then that leads to burnout as well. So sometimes we're not saying no enough to get the proper reservation of energy and a replenishing. And sometimes we get burned out because we're doing stuff that we don't even want to do to begin with, and it's under compulsion and the negative aspects of giving. So both of those can be true with boundaries, and it causes stress and anxiety because we're intruded upon. We no longer have control. I mean, if you want to get stressed out, drive down the freeway and turn your steering wheel, and then you notice it doesn't do anything, and you look in the lane next door, and there's a cocaine addict over there that's got 2 steering wheels, and they turn theirs and your car moves. You got a drug addict driving your car. Well, that's how a lot of people live their lives.
That's such a brilliant analogy.
Well,
wow, I hope people got that.
Control is manipulating you, and your life is actually depends on how crazy they are today. Well, that's lunacy. So talk about stress. I mean, I remember when my oldest daughter, you probably remember this with your kid. Remember when they got their driver's permit and the first time you sit on the other side of the car?
Oh, scary. I did it 4 times. I've got 4 children.
There was not enough Xanax, Klonopin, red wine, scotch, everything. I've never been that anxious. And it's like, well, that's how a lot of people feel. And why did I feel that way? Because I got somebody in the driver's seat that doesn't know what they're doing.
Right, so brilliant.
You got an irresponsible person in your life who's not taking responsibility for themselves and their anger and their rage and they're not paying the bills and not doing their work and emotional ups and downs. They're driving the car and it's affecting you. Well, that's how not having boundaries can cause a lot of stress.
So what do you do? Quick tip, and then we got to wrap up this podcast. Unfortunately, I could just go on forever, but we can't. We have to wrap it up. So what are some tips?
Well, you get the steering wheel back, and you realize, okay, if I'm scared, I've got to take ownership of my scared.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Take ownership of my scared.
Because what we do is we want them to change so I don't feel scared.
Ah, interesting.
So Olivia kept telling me, I'd say, do this or do this, do this. She goes, Dad, and she's protesting. And I said, Olivia, stop the car. She goes, Dad, I can drive. I go, Olivia, stop the car. Here is when you can drive. You can drive when I'm no longer scared.
Oh, that's so good.
So I'm scared right now. Now, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to take care of my scareds. Okay? I'm going to take the keys to my car and we're done for today. Now, if you listen to me, then we can do this. Okay? So if somebody's overspending, if somebody's hitting you up for more money, if they're, taking heroin, you can't control that, but you can control your scares.
That's so good. You can't control what someone else is doing, but you can control your own scares. I love it.
I am scared right now being in this house with you while you're taking heroin. So if you stop, that'll take care of my scares. If you get sober, if you don't stop, I got to take care of my scares. So I'll be living somewhere else until you get treatment. See,
So
I can
good.
take care of my scares.
Mm,
That's all you can ever do. Now,
that's
there's
so
a lot
good.
of options. You can ask them to get off drugs, and that would take care of your scares. But if they don't do that, we'll take care of my scares in a different way.
And they have to want to come off because it's their decision. So they have to want to deal with that issue. You can't make a person deal with another issue to satisfy your thing. You have to actually let them make that decision, and you take care of your own scares. Henry, this reminds me of something I always say to people, that you can't control the events and circumstances, but you can control your reactions. And that all my teaching goes around, how do we control our reactions? And so what you're saying there is taking care of your scares is controlling your reactions. Brilliant.
Right. And once we do that, then a whole new world opens up.
Yeah.
And that is, see, I've been trying to control them. I've been trying to make them stop or appease them or people please or all this. That doesn't work. So I'm going to get back in charge of me. Now I'm in charge of me. Now, for the first time, I've got options. I can say to Olivia, okay, we got a bunch of different options here. I can take my keys away. Okay. I can offer you a course with another driver called a student driver teacher who gets paid for being scared.
He gets paid for being scared. I love it.
You can go in timeout for a month until you say you're going to do what I ask you to do when we get in the car. There's a lot of different options.
You've got options. So taking control of your scares leads to options.
It leads to options, and those options have influence on the person you can't control. I can't control them, but if I'm creative,
wow.
Now I've got options that can influence them. And that's when we become a redemptive agent instead of a control freak.
Oh my gosh. So you've got taking care of your scares leads to options, which then has influence. That's your formula. I mean, that's incredible. If people just get that, when those 3 points, that's incredible. Just summarize those 3 points, and we're going to wrap up there.
What were my 3?
Just to say, so you're going to take care of your scares. It leads to options.
It leads to options. I'm going to control myself. I'm not going to try to control you. Once I get at self-control, a person that's under self-control has their prefrontal cortex working again.
Now we got options.
Options that can make choices. Making those choices
leads to influence.
To all sorts of influence.
And that's the sort of redemptive influence that you're having. Brilliant. Henry, we have to end this conversation. You've got to go. I've got to go. Our conversations never end. They just roll into the next one. And so until the next time.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to put everything in the show notes about where people can get hold of you, your radio show. You said that they go to Facebook. Do you want to quickly just tell people where they can get hold of you?
If you go to Facebook, Dr. Henry Cloud, or YouTube, Dr. Henry Cloud, I do a radio show every day, but you can listen around the clock. So tune in, leave your comments, and then if you want to become a subscriber for my coaching in all of this, go to boundaries.me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That will be in the show notes. And thank you till we talk again. Thank you, Henry. Have a wonderful day. Bye.